everybody, this is Zenkahead with WPGN, and I had originally made this video, but I'm re-recording it due to sound technical difficulties. Anyhow, I kind of wanted to put my thoughts in on the whole Diablo Immortal thing. I'm going to cover a little bit more than that. It's not going to be, the regular, everybody doesn't like it. I mean, other than the fact that everybody doesn't like it. But let's reach back into history a little bit here. And let's look at some of the decisions that Blizzard over the past years has made. Now, if we go back into some of their other games like World of Warcraft and the unreleased Project Titan, StarCraft Ghosts, things of that nature, they had a lot of good ideas there, and if they had just seen them through to the end, then they probably would have done a lot better than some of the titles that have been released in their stead. Namely being Hearthstone and Heroes of the Storm. Now, I'm not saying that these are bad games by any means, but they just don't have the pull that those games would have probably had. Point of the matter is, Blizzard over the last probably 4 years has not made very good decisions as far as their franchises have gone. Now, if we want to talk a little more about some specific things, let's look at World of Warcraft. They were indeed at one point working on the Emerald Dream. They canceled that. We got Mists of Pandaria instead. They had a lot planned for Warlords of Draenor. We got almost none of what they had promised. Things like Karabor and Bladespire supposing to be the major cities. We didn't get either of them. We got a couple of quest hubs. We didn't get Karabor at all, and we got Storm Shield for you know how that went. Along with a lot of other things. PvP was completely broken and pointless all throughout Warlords of Draenor. They never really actually fixed that. Ashran lagged so badly that most people couldn't even stay connected. And just, I don't know. Anyway, moving past that, we went into Legion. And Legion had some good things and some bad things about it. The good things is that they seem to have improved gameplay and game quality quite a bit. The mythic caches were no, not mythic caches, they weren't there yet, but those things were, they were. The mythic caches were not great. The looting system on them was pretty bad. And it's just kind of, And then they came out with Battle for Azeroth, which was supposed to be their, new and improved, game. But the problem with that is that it wasn't new and improved. They put a lot of things on the global cooldown. They came up with this new Azerite system, and it just didn't work well at all. It's still not working well. I leveled a couple characters at least up to 120, got them some reasonable gear, and it wasn't fun to play. Past that, Diablo 3, since we're going to be talking about Diablo as a franchise, Diablo 3 has been around for quite a while now, and other than the Necromancer pack, they haven't really brought anything new to Diablo 3 to keep players interested. It's kind of been idle for like the last 4 or 5 years, probably a little longer. But we're not going to damn them for that, because that happens, especially with franchises like Diablo. However, it's gone on way too long without seeing any major update. And given all this time, when BlizzCon 2018 rolled around, and I do want to preface this with the fact that I did not actually attend BlizzCon, but I have watched the raw footage for each of the panels of interest, and BlizzCon did not go well for them this year. When the Diablo panel came along, they announced that they were releasing a new Diablo game called Diablo Immortal. And it was asked whether or not Immortal would see a PC port or a PC game, and they flat out said no, that it would not. It was going to remain on mobile only. Now, it's okay if you want to make a mobile game. I would have been okay with that. The problem is that the player base has been waiting for so long for something, anything, you know, hinting that they, you know, might be working on a new game. And you have to remember that the core of the Diablo player base has always been on PC. It was not originally a console game. It was for the computer. They brought it to console later, and that's not even the problem, is it being on a console. That's not the problem at all. It certainly has its place in the world, but they brought it after it was brought to PC. So you have to keep in mind, again, that the majority of Diablo's player base was PC. Now, gamers, people that spend a lot of time playing games, either building games, having anything to do with games, you know, they have a decent computer, they've got a good rig sitting, you know, in their house, and then to hear that their next game in the franchise was going to be an app game that was limited to phones only, you kind of have to, you know, you kind of have to accept the fact that they're going to be upset, because that's not what they wanted. You know, they wanted a game, they didn't want an app. So therein lies the problem with that. That's why people are so upset. There shouldn't be really any question as to why it received such a, you know, it had such a poor reception. And there was booing, but it was only once, and it's understandable. Now, people that made the death threats in stream and whatnot, that's not, you know, they shouldn't be doing that at all. And what you also have to remember in that aspect is that the developers do what their team lead tells them to. So what their team lead tells them to design an app, that's what they're going to do. No, it's not in best interest of the player base, but, you know, when your boss says do something, that's what you do. However, I'm a bit surprised that the Diablo team and members of the team that have been on that team for longer periods of time didn't stand up and say, no, this isn't going to work. You know, we have to release either something else, or we need to put it on PC first and do the app game later. That would have made more sense. I think it would have been probably better received if they had done something like that instead of solely announced it as an app game, you know, with no option for anything else. That's what people are reacting to. That's what they're getting upset over. But to dig a little more into this, and this is where my harsher opinion comes in, Blizzard in general right now, or for at least a few years, hasn't really been listening to their player bases at all. When they announced Battle for Azeroth, people said they didn't want the GCD changes, and Mr. Hazakostas basically said that, okay, well, we understand, but we're going to do it anyway. They didn't put a lot of thought into it, and only now are they, you know, are they talking about undoing those because it's not working, and the player base told them that it wasn't working, but they didn't listen. The mythic caches are kind of a joke. So it's been very evident that, you know, especially in those two franchises, they haven't really been listening to their player base, and that's what's getting them in trouble with their player base. Is that, you know, they don't feel listened to. They don't feel as if Blizzard cares enough as a company to actually listen and do something that's in their best interest. You know, that's the problem here. Now, I think that it can be redeemed, but it's going to take some work, and they're going to have to do something better than an app game to do that with. You know, unfortunately. What are we upgrading here? I don't even know what thorns. Yeah, we'll upgrade that. So that's pretty much where things are at now. There was even a drop in the stock worth for Blizzard and Entertainment and NetEase. That should tell you something, and that's not a good thing when your stock's dropping. That means that your shareholders are selling their shares at less than market value because they believe that the company is not performing up to the standard that it needs to retain the value. That's a problem for a couple of reasons. A, stockholders that do hold their stocks, it's not going to be worth as much. And B, those stockholders are your investors. They're the ones that are paying you to develop these games. And if you were getting less money, then you have less resources to develop games with. So, food for thought on Blizzard's part. If their stock is going down, then they may want to pay a little closer attention to that. That way, they're not losing their assets. Anyhow, there's probably a lot of people that ask, what, in the community, what can we do to make Blizzard change their mind? Well, one of the things you can do that hasn't really worked so far is, post on the forums, their feedback sections, email their feedback teams, and constructively let them know that, this isn't working. This isn't what the player base wants. Another option is if you are a content creator or a streamer, and you are scheduled to say now I know that I'm kind of like pointing directly at a few people by saying this, and I don't mean to do that purposefully, but it is the truth. The fact of the matter is, if you are a content creator for Diablo, like you are Riker or Lord Fluffy, or like in the World of Warcraft area, if you're Cinder or Preach or any of those people, that have that kind of pull where Blizzard is scheduling you to stream or make content about this new game they're coming out with, you have a voice probably bigger than the rest of us. If it's something that you don't support because the player base doesn't support it, you have the biggest voice to turn around and say, no, I'm not going to do this. This isn't what we want. I'm not going to promote a product that isn't wanted. Yeah, you might lose your streaming ability for them. Well, I mean, you can't really actually lose your streaming ability for them. You can stream whatever you want. That's the beauty of being a Twitch member. But, yes, there may be a little fallout from that, but it will impact them more than, just the forums being flooded with, a cry out or an outcry, because it's obvious that they don't really pay attention to the forums. And I really feel bad for the community managers when, they're taking the brunt of this while the developers sit behind them going, oh, well, say this to calm them down, reassure them, or they're issued, a public nondescript statement such as, and I quote, there are multiple Diablo projects in the works right now. We can't talk in depth about them, but just to let you know, there are multiple Diablo projects in the works right now. Now, to me, on the back end of the horrible reception that Diablo Immortal got, that line right there is kind of a CYA move just to try and calm people down. Because if they really actually had been working on another Diablo 4 or Diablo game or something, they would have had something to show for it at BlizzCon, because BlizzCon is when they announce all of their upcoming projects. So they may have done some work on something, but it's not enough to actually be considered a project yet. Which also means that they started it way too late, and they probably spent more time and more resources developing Diablo Immortal. Again, I'm not saying that app games don't have their place. What I am saying is it's not good enough for your fan base. They don't want they have these big expensive rigs, like, I've got a level 10 case here with a crap ton of hardware in it, And the last thing that I want to do for the next game in a franchise that I like is play it on a 6-inch screen. No, I like to come home, I like to log onto my computer, and I like to play it on a 42-inch screen or a 32-inch screen, with, Titan Z's and, really good hardware, so it looks really good. I don't want to squint at this tiny screen and click buttons. That's basically it. Your core fans don't want to do that. So if you're wondering why it had that bad of a reception, that is why. Because it's something that your player base doesn't want. Now, you've already made your mistakes with World of Warcraft. You've put out Heroes of the Storm, which was pretty much a flop. You've put out Hearthstone that, yes, has a bit of a passive income, but in comparison to your biggest IPs, which are World of Warcraft and Diablo, the money that Hearthstone makes is nothing. And I understand that Diablo's business model, or the game model, isn't one for much of a recurring subscription like, say, World of Warcraft is, or buying packs like Hearthstone is. But, you make a good, solid, fleshed out, polished game, you charge $60 for it. If you want to, do like the pet thing with battle frames and all that stuff, you charge $80 or, $100 or whatever your packages go for, because I know they've done that before. So you do that, and you get the influx or the cash infusion from the core fan base that's going to buy it. And then you might get some from, people, I'm going to buy it for my friend because, they need to play this game. So you get some there, and you get some, new people trying it. And then, a year and a half down the line, you release an expansion for it like you did with, Reaper of Souls or Hellfire or Lord of Destruction. And then you can keep a game going for a very long time by releasing, relevant, good content that players can play through. Okay, every now and again you release a new class like the Druid or the Amazon or whatever. And this is going back into Diablo's history a little bit, because those are things that we don't have in Diablo 3. We have the Necromancer, we have the Demon Hunter, we have the Witch Doctor, we've got the Monk, we've got a few others. We don't have the Amazon, we don't have we have the Sorcerer. We don't have the other one. I just said it. I can't remember what it was. We don't have the Warrior that we did in the original Diablo. We have Berserker. We don't have, but they've kind of changed out the classes as you go along. But so, release a class pack, release an expansion, put in some new maps, do events, which they do events with Diablo 3, but so much of Diablo 3 in the beginning was messed up because of some of the development decisions that were made. It's not a bad game, but the playability is so far down on the chart from where the original Diablo was, or Diablo 2. I think, while I like Diablo 3, I still enjoyed Diablo 2 more. I really, really enjoyed and loved Diablo 1. I mean, even though it was really old, the graphics weren't so great, it was very grainy, but that was the state of hardware back then. And I still played it. I played the hell out of it. I even talked my dad into installing it on his work computer so we could play when I went to work with him. I liked it that much. It was a good game. Diablo 2 was a good game. Diablo 3 was an okay game. It's not bad. Could be better, but not bad. And part of the other reason is that in this Diablo Immortal, that you don't get the level of gore and the level of grittiness and the level of darkness that you do with the previous Diablo games like Diablo 1, 2, and 3. And I realized that part of that is because of constraints through the market, releasing it in other countries, and I understand that. But when you're lobbying to your core group of players, you can't do that. And when you say that you're going to release an app game that doesn't have the impact that the other games that have previously been on the market do, and you're specifically, releasing it on a mobile platform, you really have lost touch with your community. Your community aren't mobile players. We don't sit there and play games on our phone 24/7. You know, we don't game hardcore on our phone. You know, we don't make content with games on our phone. No, we do that on our computers. And I really think that in a lot of ways, Blizzard, not only with World of Warcraft and Diablo, have lost touch with their player base and their communities. And I think the only reason that they've been so silent about this whole Diablo Immortal thing is because they're afraid. You know, they made a huge blunder. It was a very bad. It was very badly arranged with PR. You know, they announced the app game. They didn't announce anything else. All we got was a vague, you know, kind of cover up, saying, "Oh, there's more stuff in the works." And when you have BlizzCon as your, you know, your event to unveil the things that you've been working on and tell your fans and your customers, you know, hey, this is coming up. Hey, this is what we've been working on. No, this isn't going to be ready yet for a while, but it's there. You know, that's what you should have done. That way, the core player base could have held out hope that maybe in the next year or two, you know, with a little bit of updating Diablo 3, there would be a Diablo 4, and they wouldn't be limited solely to this app game that they don't really want to play. And I think that they really missed the mark there, and I think that they're not understanding that that is the reason why people are upset. And instead of just apologizing for it, they're staying quiet. They're, you know, throwing up all these fronts. They're, oh, well, we're making more stuff. We can't tell you about it, but yeah, we're making more stuff. And when you've been around as long as some of us have, you know, I'm in my, you know, mid-30s now, and I've played Blizzard's games for many, many years, probably more than I should have. And I've seen them issue public apologies, excuses, whatever. That's exactly what it feels like. Is it's a front. It's an excuse. Oh, there's more stuff in the works. Don't worry, there's more stuff. It's coming, but we can't tell you about it. That right there tells me that they don't have anything else in the works, that they were banking on this app game. The app game is going to be a flop. They're well aware of that now. Other countries have already said that they don't want it. And now they're sitting there cowering behind their developer tags going, oh crap, we've pissed everybody off. We don't have another product to offer up. What do we do? So if they can't pull this out and they can't shift their focus of development onto something that will gain their player base back, we may have very well witnessed the death of a company, or at least the death of a franchise. World of Warcraft is on its way out already. They like to claim that BFA is their most successful expansion, their best-selling expansion. But let's be honest, I mean, we know what the numbers are. We know what the community's response was to it, and it's just not. They're lying. It's a bunch of baloney. BFA did not sell well. The changes in BFA were not well received. Most people, yes, while they did buy it, myself included, they quit playing. They unsubbed. I haven't touched it for a good while just because it's boring. It feels like and yes, I understand that when I say it feels like a grind, that's not really all that applicable. But, you know, the whole point in an MMO, in any game, when you gain gear, is to move on to harder content of which that gear is slated for. Not to have everything be as strong as you because it's scaling to whatever you're at. When you've already been through that area long ago, you have much better gear, but everything's as hard as it was then because it's scaling to your gear. That completely defeats the purpose of gearing up, getting more powerful gear with more stats on it. It defeats the entire purpose of that, and that's exactly what BFA did. All they did was draw out the process. They slowed combat down. They took away the hero moments. So it's not World of Warcraft that's going to save them. I would be, I would be surprised, and they would be lucky if they can squeeze another expansion out of it that manages to make any money. As far as Diablo 3, yeah, people will keep playing it, but it's getting old. You're going to have to do something, because people aren't going to want to play Diablo 3 forever while you work on this app game, and I can guarantee you that you're going to release this app game, and yeah, some people are going to buy it, but it's not going to have the reception that you want. It's not going to make the money that you want. It's certainly not going to have the interest that you want. And you're going to lose all of the core customers that have loved this franchise since it began. I don't know, Mr. Brevik personally, but I would imagine that somewhere in the back of his mind, he looked at this and said, wow, what are these fools doing? Mark Kern certainly doesn't approve of the idea. He also explains, as I am, why people are so upset. And to watch a company that was a creator of AAA games fall this far is really a shame. It really is. There isn't really much else to say about it, but I figured that I would explain, that I would cover some of that stuff, and even though a lot of people don't watch my channel, I figured I would be the voice of reason and explain why people were so upset, what the margins are, what's happening, and give my thoughts as to why Blizzard is doing what they're doing, and hopefully if any of them watch this, maybe give them some insight as to what they are doing that is causing things to go so badly for them, and maybe give them an idea of how to fix it. But other than that, that's really about it. So, if you want to subscribe, I'll do more videos about other games, and, maybe if they update this, more videos about Diablo, more videos about WoW, if they fix that. Maybe Overwatch, I don't know. I kind of just do random stuff whenever I feel like it, so, if you're into that, then, yeah, by all means, subscribe, and, thank you for watching, and I will see you all later.